It's America's birthday today, and I've been thinking a lot about what it means to be a citizen. What does it mean to be part of a country? You got to learn how to be part of a family. You learn how to be part of a church. You learn how to be part of a business if you have a job. You learn how to be part of a team if you play sports. What does it mean to be not just a citizen, but a Christian citizen? To take on our parlance, the words that we use, what does it look like to be a good news citizen? What does it mean to make the country that we're part of better because we're here? One of the kind of defining things about this church that we're working on starting and are part of starting together is that we believe that we're not just here for each other, but we're here for all the people around us right now who don't know Jesus. That people who know Jesus should make every place they go better because their faith inspires them to work a little extra, to give a little more, to be a little kinder. That every place we go should be better because the followers of Jesus have been there. We want to be good, not just to each other, but for everyone. And so, what does it mean to be part of a country? I have these 2 verses, and I have 6 things as part of it, and I want to try to teach them to you. And if any of the elementary school kids who are in the house are able to say all 6 back at the end of the service, there's a very special prize. And maybe the adults, if that would help you pay attention, you can be motivated on that as well. 2 verses, Titus chapter 3, and these 2 verses. If you're ready, say ready. Remind them to be submissive to rulers and authorities, to be obedient, to be ready for every good work, to speak evil of no one, to avoid quarreling, to be gentle, and to show perfect courtesy toward all people. If you live this out, 2 verses, you're a good news citizen. Let me read it again. Remind them to be submissive to rulers and authorities, to be obedient, to be ready for every good work, to speak evil of no one, to avoid quarreling, to be gentle, and to show perfect courtesy toward all people. Do you see? There's a lot there. The first part is that first word. If you see the first word, what's the first word there in those 2 verses? Remind. Remind. This is the book of Titus. This is the Apostle Paul writing. This is one of what's known as the pastoral epistles. And so Paul is writing this to young people. And these 1st and 2nd Timothy and Titus, these 3 books, give a lot of instruction for how people should act in a world that isn't exactly their home and a world where they aren't exactly the majority. It gives a lot of instruction for how people should act. And he's getting to the end now, and he says now, by the way, remind them. A reminder is something that is given about something important that you're worried the person might forget. Who needs an alarm to wake up in the morning as a reminder? Who's old enough or has that certain kind of way that in the middle of the summer, you're starting to wake up when it's light out at about 4:45 and you don't need an alarm like ever? Anybody else tracking with me? Sunday morning, I can just tell you, if I make it past 4:15 a.m., I'm feeling good. That's why usually by the time you see me, I'm 8 cups of coffee in and just ready to rock it. A reminder, an alarm is a reminder. Anymore in the world, because we've lost the ability to remember things because we have phones that remember things. Do you remember when you used to have to know how to get places? And now sometimes you'll be in the car with someone and they'll type in the address to their home. It's but you live there, right? So you know how to get there. A reminder is something that you need so that you don't forget something important. Some people use Post-it notes, that you got a calendar where you write stuff. In school, it's really important that you have you know when things are due so that you don't get in trouble. There's reminder. Paul says, remind them. Well, why do you need a reminder? You need a reminder at a time when it's easy to forget. You need a reminder at a time that it's easy to forget. Would you say that it's possible that it's a time in our world where it's easy to forget to be submissive to rulers and authorities? Is it possible that a few people have forgot that that's important or maybe something that is necessary? So this today, what I'm hoping, is a reminder for you, and it's going to go pretty quick now. See, biblical Christians are by definition, we're in a predicament or a problem. We have a problem. And our problem, people who say that we're Christians, is this. We are forced to live in the world. But our primary loyalty and enthusiasm is not for the world. We're forced to live. You can't opt out. I don't see any Amish folks in the room today. As far as I can tell, every woman arrived with an uncovered head. No bonnets that I can see. Everyone here is wearing normal clothes. We are not part. Some people opt out of society. We've not done that. We are in this world, but we are not like from this world. We're not supposed to be completely comfortable. And I started to think about loyalty. Remind them to be submissive to rulers and authorities. How do you know when you're supposed to obey and when you're not? When you hear a law, when you hear a rule, how do you know when you're supposed to obey or not? How do you know when you're supposed to obey or not? How do you know when you're supposed to obey or not? I made a picture. I'm kind of proud of it. You want to see it? You're going to see it anyway. This is the loyalty pyramid. At the top, of course, is God, right? Anything that God wants you to do supersedes anything else that anyone would ask you to do. So if your parents or your boss or someone in the government, if a teacher at school, if someone that you meet tells you to do something that's different than what God has told you to do, you go with what God says 100 times out of 100, right? Next, your family. You owe a loyalty to the people that are your blood family or the people that you're married into family. Family is above everything else other than God. It's designed this way. Scripture talks about this all over. You owe something more to your family than to the other people that you meet in a day. Next. 2 parts here. So my church, if you're part of Good News in the Neighborhood, this is your church, but we are not just part of this church, we are also part of the church, which is thousands and millions of people across the world that are meeting today. And the people in that church are followers of Jesus Christ. We are part of that team together. The church that I worked in LA is having their first service in person after COVID this morning. And it feels like I've lived like 3 lives since the last time I was there last March, when everybody was like, all right, well, we'll see you in 2 weeks, huh? And then we got here. We are not just part of this church, we are part of the church. And we owe a loyalty. Galatians 6:10 is a great verse about this, that we owe a loyalty not just to everyone, but especially to those who are of the household of faith. The pyramid continues, keep going. I think this is where your country falls, is here. You're a citizen of a particular country. I was once at birth a citizen of a country that I do not like or respect very much. I am now a citizen of the United States, and I like this country very much. If you don't know where I'm from, you can try to find out. But it's north of here, and they really like to play hockey. And keep going with the pyramid, and then I'm going to make a point and we'll be done with this. You got to get your loyalty straight if you want to be a Christian citizen. Some people want you to think, and there's kind of a move in the world that like borders should be meaningless and that everyone it just doesn't matter and we're all the same. No, different countries have different value systems and different governments have different ways of doing things, and there's good parts about this country and bad parts about this country, just like there is in many other countries. But if you're a citizen of this country, you do owe a loyalty to it, but you don't owe a loyalty to it that is more than what you owe to your church or to your family or to God. And you got to get that kind of clear, I think, if you want to do this right. So back to this text now. Remind them to be submissive to rulers and authorities. I've got 6 things. These are the ones you're going to memorize now if you want to win the prize at the end. The first one is this: follow rules. Paul is really clear that if you want to do what God wants you to do, follow rules. If the government says you owe taxes, just because you don't like it doesn't give you a justification for not doing it. Well, maybe we should just stop it right there. Wow, I didn't expect conviction, just fell across the room. If you agree to be part of something, you owe a responsibility to follow the rules of the system. Again, now I've been as clear as I know how to be. Don't be part of something if that forces you to be disobedient to God or to be dishonoring to your family. But oftentimes, if we're just being fair, what Christians are known for is thinking that because they have a Bible, that means that they don't have to follow any of the rules. No, we just means that we don't have to follow the rules that are against the rules of God. Jesus is as clear as he could possibly be when he says, give to Caesar what is Caesar, give to God what is God's. He's as clear as could possibly be. So follow rules. A great way to be a Christian citizen is to not make things difficult. If there's zoning laws on your street, follow them. If there's traffic laws, oh boy, I'm coming for myself now. See, I thought that the stop signs were more optional. But what I've been told is that they're actually always mean you're supposed to actually stop. Am I getting that? One of the ways that we're a Christian citizen is we make it easy for the people that we're trying to lead by following the rules. Our society loves to make things difficult for everyone. Paul says, as clearly as possible, remind them to be submissive to rulers and authorities. Do the things that you're supposed to do. That's what he means when he says to be obedient. To be obedient means follow the rules. Say that with me. Say follow rules.
Follow rules.
Say it again. Say follow rules.
Follow rules.
Now second, say, this is the second part, say follow opportunities. Okay, we got less excited. I haven't taught it to you yet. Here it is. Do you see it? The next part in the text. Do you see it? It says to be ready for every good work. To be ready for every good work. To be ready is the idea of having the margin to be able to seize things that come in front of you. Have you ever been in such a hurry to get somewhere or to do something that a person could be standing offering to hand you cash and you wouldn't even have time to look over and grab it? This is a question that might help with this, and then I want to teach it to you. Is your life built with enough margin to see open doors as a blessing? It happens to me like crazy right now. Not that long ago, I was driving down the street near my house, and I saw a guy middle of the day on a Saturday kind of stumbling along, and his pants were kind of like half down, and I thought he was either sick or had really been drinking a lot. And I wasn't in a rush, thank God, that day, and so I pulled over and actually put him in my car and took him home and gave him my number and gave him a referral to try to help him get into a rehab. This guy was in a really bad, like really bad addiction space. And the only reason I'll say to my own chagrin that many times in my life I would have needed to get where I was going so fast, in such a rush, that God put an opportunity to bring the good news to someone right in front of me, and I wouldn't have had the time to stop for it. When Paul says here, be ready for every good work, it's the idea of Carter. Come here, you're in the sermon for a second. We try to rotate, fellas. I don't know. Come on. To be ready has with it the idea, if you've ever played sports, to be ready, we never even practiced this. Carter, show us, what does it look like to be in a stance ready to play defense in a basketball game? Right. To be ready, why do they want you on the balls of your feet with your hands out? So that you can move quick. I seem agile, don't I? I know. Like a cat, ready to go this way. I see it in the basketball. There's a lot of guys getting injured. I'm waiting by the phone. I think they're calling me. This is my big moment. I've been waiting for it. Come on. Get down in the stance. To be ready is to be positioned so that if he goes left, I'm going to go left. If he goes right, I'm going to go right. And many Christians are not good citizens because we're so paying attention to what we're doing that if God brings an opportunity right in front of us, our eyes are not lifted up to look to see it or to seize it. And so to be a good Christian citizen, to be a good new citizen means if God brings a person in my path, I'm going to be ready to talk to them. If God brings an opportunity to do ministry right in front of me, I'm going to do it. If God brings something toward me, I'm going to grab it because I'm looking for it and I'm ready. It always makes me laugh in church when you meet a young single person and they say, I'm not really looking to date right now. And they say that, but in my mind I hear, well, that's a lie. They say, I'm not really looking to date right now. And then in my ears, what it says is, I'm really looking to date right now. Because most people who are looking to fall in love are always in the ready stance if the right person comes along. To be ready, what Paul says, for every good work. Do you see it? I hope I've taught it to you now. Is to be able to follow opportunities as they come your way. If a person walked up to you as you were walking out today in the hotel and they said, was that a church that you were just at? And you said, depends who's asking. No, you said yes. And if a person just right out of their mouth said, you know, I don't really know much about church. What kind of church was it? What do they believe? Would you have the ability to give some kind of honest and reasonably insightful answer? If a person showed up right in front of you and said, I want to have faith in Jesus Christ, would you know how to help them cross over the line into eternal life? That's what it looks like to be ready. So first, we're going to follow rules. Second, say it with me, follow opportunities. 4 more, and they're going to start coming even a little bit faster. So back to the text. Remind them to be submissive to rulers and authorities, to be obedient, to be ready for good work, for every good work. Now, there's 4 things in the second verse. First, to speak evil of no one. To speak evil of no one. Third thing, we're going to follow rules. We're going to follow opportunities. Third thing, don't slander. Say that with me. Don't. To slander is to say something about someone else that isn't completely or actually true. To speak evil, that's what that word means, to speak evil, is to try to make other people think worse about someone by the words that you say. To avoid slander is to try hard not to overstate the wrong in another person. It's easy to see the wrong in another person, right? Here, quick, everyone just start saying what's wrong with me. No, I'm just kidding. But it's easy to see what's wrong in another person, right? Person walks in and you're like, that shirt, Thank goodness they finally got a haircut. Yeah, well, COVID was not good to her. You know, this kind of things people say. It's easy to see, man, I could have told you their kids were going to go that direction. He really thinks he can afford that car, huh? It's really easy to see what's wrong in another person. Does anyone find you don't have to work hard to feel like you could point out what's wrong in another person? It's one thing to see what's wrong in another person. It's another thing. I've asked before, other folks. I had my friend John, who was here last week leading worship. He said, I really enjoyed the sermon, he said to me. And I said, well, could you tell me a couple specific things you thought were good? Because I'd really like to learn. And can you tell me a couple things you think could be better? And then he did. There's nothing wrong with saying what is true, positive or negative if asked. But to speak evil of someone is not even just to cross over the next line, which it's most of the time wrong to talk negatively about another person simply to hurt them. But to speak evil is to cross even one more line, which is to actually overstate what's wrong with the person in the first place, simply for the purposes of something that you're trying to get after. To speak evil of no one. Good news citizens don't slander. This is a small little thing, and this isn't going to get political, but I think it's useful. Do you know that if you look back, like even 30 years in our country, you could find pretty decent-sized groups of people who thought the president was doing a good job, even if they hadn't voted for him. That was the way, if you look back, Ronald Reagan, even Richard Nixon, John Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson, all the way back. I could name all of them if you want to be impressive someday, all the way back. Millard Fillmore, James Buchanan. It used to be that the way that the system worked is people could say, that's not my guy, but I think he's doing a pretty good job on X or Y or Z. And somewhere along the way, with the power of the way that news works, and I don't have any idea how to get into all of it, a bunch of things happened, most of which people would say weren't good. And now, almost no one ever says that the person that they didn't vote for is doing a good job. And one of the ways that happens is they are constantly, the president, whoever it is slandered, which means that people overstate the case about how bad he is. If you can't think, the last 2 presidents, the last 3, the last 4, if you can't think of like one good thing that they did, just get so nervous. It's possible that you've kind of fallen into this like slander thing, because to speak evil of someone is to overstate how wrong a person is. Do you see it? And it's not what good news citizens do. Good news citizens believe the best. Good news citizens can say, well, I really like the Bears quarterbacks. He looks good in the uniform. He seems like a nice guy. He tries hard in the game. Those of us who have received the good news of Jesus should be using that good news to go out of our way to see the positive in the people around us at every turn. Good news citizens should be going out of their way to say, oh man, this school board, do they have a difficult job? But you know what? They're good folks and they're trying their best and we try to support them however we can. I could keep giving examples, but are you grabbing it? We don't slander. We don't slander. We don't say, you know what? Here's what's wrong with her. This and this and this. Those three things were true. But you know what else? Kind of this and kind of this and kind of this. Three more. We don't do that. The reason we don't do it is it doesn't help and it isn't godly. Speak evil of, there, I did a little study. Do you see there where it says speak evil of no one? Stay with me now. So I did a lot of study into it. Like the original language, and you got out all my books and everything. And do you know what? Oh, Billy, you can feel like, well, what am I going to say? Where's it coming? Do you know what that means when it says to speak evil of no one? It means like not a single person. You can't find, like, it means I got to trim off what I say about my brother, I guess, because it's to speak evil of, do you see it? No person. Just because we have the good news doesn't give us the right to be bad news about anyone. So we follow rules, we follow opportunities. We don't slander. 4, say with me now, don't, the next one, don't argue. Don't argue. Don't, if you don't say it, I'm going to have to start one of these with you. Don't argue. Do you see it? To speak evil of no one, then it says to avoid quarreling. That's what my translation says. That word can be translated a lot of different ways. To argue is needless contention, needless conversation that is more about making a point of disagreement than trying to change a person's mind or making a difference. Do you ever get into a situation with another person where you realize there's no way the two of us are ever going to see this the same? There's just no way the two of us are ever going to see this the same. I've had to come to this place with Kristen about how long it takes to play golf. She thinks that it takes too long. I think that it takes not long enough. And no amount of interacting in words that we might share is ever going to have us at the same mindset about this topic. I'm using a joking one, but they're all over the place. This is in marriage, this is in relationships, to avoid quarreling is to say, you know what? We don't agree. We're not going to agree. So let's skip the part where we make each other all angry and upset and get all churned up inside and start to dislike each other, because at the end of it, we're still going to be at the same place, but now we've put a bunch of stuff between us. Quarreling causes so much damage. Most of social media comments, most of the public culture war, frankly, a lot of times when people start discussing theology with each other, in all of these, often the point isn't to change the person's mind. The point is to sound really good making your point. And it doesn't make a difference. And good news citizens avoid quarreling. This is a struggle for some of us who are good at saying words good. Because sometimes we can think that if we just say it in that perfect way, and with those perfect words, but I know, but wait till she hears my argument. It kills me every time when you see people like arguing about some like big, like when people were arguing, remember all that time where we were arguing about the masks and if you should wear them and where you should wear them? And it's like, there's more information about this than there was on the planet 100 years ago. And people decided what they thought. And I don't know of it, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know of a single person who was like, I thought one way about the masks. Then this guy that I didn't really like wrote this really clever paragraph that I read, and then I just changed my opinion completely. When the words that you're saying, when the words that I'm saying are about making a strong point and not about any actual thinking that it could change the person's mind, that is quarreling, and good news citizens avoid quarreling. We've made it through 4. Follow rules, follow opportunities, don't slander, don't argue. Now 2 more. Do you see it? It's right here. I'm just showing these one by one out of the Bible. To speak evil of no one, to avoid quarreling, Two more. To be gentle. To be gentle, I'm calling it be gentle. To be gentle is to give the truth or to go after reality in a way that allows the person you're talking to the best chance to conform slowly. To be gentle is to care as much about the person you're talking to as the point you're trying to make. To be gentle is to be the way that God has been for such a long time to us. God didn't give us 2 chances and then out. Aren't you thankful today in the house of God? God didn't give us 4 chances and then burned us to the ground. To be gentle is to not insist on your own way, to not make it have to be a certain way right away. To be gentle is to allow a path or a progression to obedience or conformity. Have you ever had that experience of trying to get in shape? And then you go and the workout program that you go on, or the class that you try, or the trainer, God forbid, that you hire, they're so excited to show you how much stuff they know that they make the first time you're with them so miserable that you would almost rather go to the grave than ever go back. Have you ever had that experience? But the people I've often found that you get a lot further if you start and do a little bit. I could tell you today, here's a couple of examples to be gentle. I could tell you today that I believe that the Bible teaches that 10 cents out of every dollar that you make belongs to God, and it belongs to the church that you go to. But if the way that I teach that suggests you better get it right, and you better get it right today, and you better get it right before you leave this room or don't come back, in all likelihood, you are injured in a way that makes it unlikely that you will conform. For some people, that's not just, it's not going to work right this second for you to do that. So what I would say is give what you can afford to give and build a path to get it all the way to where it needs to be. Just because it can't be perfect doesn't mean that God isn't pleased with your desire. To be gentle means to not insist that it's a perfect thing every single time. That's a lot of different examples, and I hope you see it. Good news citizens are gentle with each other. I'm finding more and more and more that the people that you and I get around a lot of times are pretty fragile. And people after the last year and a couple years that we've been through are carrying a lot of different things. And I'm finding that the more often you can be calm, and the more often you can say your words in a calm voice, and the more often you can try not to be so pushy in your way of saying what's right, you make a lot bigger impact. Last one, be gentle. And I love this, and this is it. We're almost done now. Thank you, everyone. To show perfect courtesy toward all people. To show perfect courtesy towards all people is to be kind. Is to be kind. To show perfect courtesy toward all people is just another way of saying what Jesus said in a different place and what Paul said in a different place. It's to treat the person that you're talking to like they're more important than you are. To show perfect courtesy towards all people is to be kind even when you don't have to. I find increasingly, we got them all on the screen now, all 6? I want us to try to gather these all up into our heart. This be kind, I'm going to talk about it for a second, and then I'm going to try to gather this up, and then we're going to be done. So to be kind, what it says there is to show perfect courtesy to all people, is to go out of your way to treat the least important people you talk to like you would treat the most important people you talk to. This is not that easy. I'll just be honest, it sounds easy when you're standing in church, but like sometimes when you're in a store and the person you're talking to doesn't help you, and then you ask them again. Sometimes when the person at the drive-thru messes the order up and now you're late for the thing you're going to. Sometimes when the person on the customer service who sounds like they're half a world away and they won't solve your problem, but they just keep saying, "Sir, I want to solve your problem," but then you can tell all the words after that they don't want to solve your problem. But they keep saying, "Sir, I'd really like to help you solve your problem," but they don't actually want to, wait, I'm doing it. You know that thing? It's really hard to treat people nicely when you don't have to. But this is how we spread the good news. The way that we spread the good news is we are supposed to be different. And so these are all such common sense things, which is why I started with these are all reminders. They're reminders to help us get back on track of how do we live in this strange and difficult world that we're living in. How do we do it? How do we do it? How do we do it well? How do we not make things worse? How do we make things better? We do these 6 things from Titus chapter 3, verse 1 and 2. I'm going to ask you to say them with me. And then at the very end, after we pray, if anyone can recite them all, any of the kids, we do have a prize, all right? So to be a good new citizen means, we're going to do this, come on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, now we're going to do it again, and by the time we're done, I think we're going to be ready to sing. How do we become good new citizens, friends? How do we do it? How do we do it? How do we do it? Here's how we do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One more time, why don't you stand to your feet? We want to be good news citizens. We want to be good news citizens. And here's how we do it. We won. Come on. Oh, the guy got put him back on the screen. What happened? We killed everybody. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Here's God's word for us today. Remind them to be submissive to rulers and authorities, to be obedient, to be ready for every good work, to speak evil of no one, to avoid quarreling, to be gentle, and to show perfect courtesy toward all people. Now, before we go, do we have any of the young folks in the house think they can get the reciting of all of our 6 things from this morning? All right, if you think you got it, come on. We just need one winner, and then everybody wins. Come on. Yeah, Reed, you're my son, bud. I think that would be a little bit weird if I picked you. Come on. All right. Tell us your name.
Abigail.
All right, Abigail. Now here, we're all rooting for you. Look, everybody out here's rooting for you. All right, you got it? All right, here we go.
Follow the rules, follow opportunities. Don't slander, don't argue. Be gentle and be kind.